All right, back down to Chief's Pit with the Petty brothers, Timmy, Mark, and Richie. And we've been thinking of different episodes to do for you, and Timmy brought up a good one. Back in the late 90s and all, on the ESPN and all, they used to have a deal, Buffet Benny. And Benny Parsons would go around and eat different things with people in the infields and stuff, depending on what region of the country they were in. And Benny made a big to-do about it. We enjoyed watching that. And you can see we ain't missed many meals down here at the Petty Brothers. So, we're going to do a special Benny Parsons type show about us traveling the country and some of the good places that we would eat during there. So,
and
Timmy?
His sons, Kevin and Keith, is some of the questions we've had in our earlier posts or whatever. They kind of school us on what we're thinking about because we can't remember the name of some of the places. But anyway, like we've all talked about doing a Buffet Benny parody. But anyway, some of our favorite places to eat at along the way, we'll start out with Daytona because we're going to the Oyster Pub, going to Duff's, which was a cafeteria. Junie Dunleavy would go down there a lot. Who else was down there that we've seen?
Well, Grandfather Petty, he liked a good cafeteria.
Yeah.
So
he said, "Sonny, if you can't get what you want to eat here, you ain't hungry."
And then you had Junie Dunleavy, and then you'd run into a lot of NASCAR officials at these cafeterias, and we still like going to cafeterias today because you can get, like you said, any type of food you want.
And also like Talladega, Alabama. I guess Atlanta and Talladega was kind of known for catfish. You know, they do a lot of catfish raised farms or whatnot, the ponds and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, they had the top of the river, which the riverboat special. Anybody that's been in racing a few years that you've been down there and stayed one night, chances are you've went to eat the riverboat special. We went one time with Steve Grissom and his crowd to the Catfish Cabin, and I heard some people talking about the Ark, which I've never had to. I'd love to go to the Ark, but if it's catfish, it's got to be good. But anyway, what else we got on?
Well, I remember the top of the river because it was just good catfish, but also they had this cornbread, and it had jalapeno peppers in that cornbread.
Well, it was the first place I ever tried fried dill pickles.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Top of the river.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they had the onion rings, the green turnip greens.
Oh, yeah, the greens.
Some good eating there.
It's delicious. I mean, just the way they do that catfish down there. So,
when you go back to Daytona, you skipped right over. There's several places because we'd spend 2 weeks down in Daytona, so we had a lot of good places in Daytona Beach. But there was this little hole in the wall that was over there in New Smyrna. The Skyline.
Our dad loved that place.
Oh, he loved it.
Ted's Skyline
Grill.
It was called the Skyliner.
Skyliner Bar and
okay.
Grill.
And it was at New Smyrna Airport, right on.
Right.
I guess
I
on
thought it was Ted's.
Well, that's what we call it.
It may have been. That's what I think the guy on it was.
Yeah,
Ted.
well, I mean, yeah. But,
I don't know.
It was a Skyliner.
But it was right beside New Smyrna Airport.
Right.
You go there and eat, and what was cool is
People, y'all could help us out. Somebody's got to remember this place.
But what I thought was cool, the food was great, but that's where they parked the blimps.
Yes, the Goodyear blimp.
Yep. And we would go in there and eat, and they had anything from Italian food like spaghetti, and you could get these little Danish lobster tails.
Oh yeah, they wasn't the big ones and wasn't the little ones.
But the best thing about this restaurant, and y'all may have, I know everybody's got their own, but what I remember and I loved was the dessert. They had this rum pie, and they made them homemade in the house, and that thing was that thick. And you'd get a big slab of rum pie after you ate that lobster tail and spaghetti.
Well, we went there one time, and I mean, Daddy had to be 10 people with us, and whoever this guy took our order, never wrote nothing down.
I remember that.
And Daddy was always impressed with that.
Yeah, there's like 15 of us.
Right. Yeah, it was a big crowd. I don't know the number, but it was more than we usually went to eat with. And this guy took our order, and then Daddy, being smart. But he was. A couple of us had to move around, and that guy still remembered exactly what we ordered. And
because he tried to confuse us.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was a good that we.
Well, Daddy thought he had a tape recorder or something on him.
Right.
He was listening.
He was trying to figure it out.
So he swapped us up in the chairs, and the guy he remembered our faces with our order. So he was a pretty amazing guy.
Yeah, he had one of them minds. But that was a good place. I'm sorry, I skipped over. I didn't mean.
But
to.
you know, and you also. The Steak and Shake in Daytona off the main drag there, which A1.
The one that was on 92.
92.
And there's one there now, but it's on the complete other side of, I guess, Nova Road or whatnot.
But it was a staple of Daytona everybody, we would go eat breakfast there because they served a breakfast in the morning. So all the race
It
crews
was
were
24 hours,
Right.
And they didn't have that many
and
places
then,
like it.
and it seemed like their food was probably better than any Steak and Shake I ever ate in the country. But it was good.
Well, and that was before Steak and Shake really moved around.
Now,
Southeast here.
the neat story about that race or that restaurant is I remember hearing, I guess it was a CBS executive, and they was talking about the '79. Bill France Sr. wouldn't let them go live with the race because he hadn't sold out. He was more interested in selling out the race, the grandstands. And as soon as he figured out that the race had sold out, he told him they could go live with the race. To celebrate this, I don't know the guy's name, it was a CBS executive. He was like, he thought they were going to go out and eat and celebrate because they were going live. Bill France Sr., he took him to eat supper at the Steak and Shake.
Best place in town.
That's right.
All right. Also, Daytona, you had Marco's Heritage Inn.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Oh, the fish chowder.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's
Because you just don't get that stuff.
Yeah.
and the cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
They would bring.
Marco's.
But yeah, there for a couple of years they actually sponsored the 43
Well, that's
car.
not
Like
so different than the yeast rolls. What was that place that sponsored Alan Cole?
Quincy's.
Quincy's.
Yeah, Quincy's.
Rolls,
Yeah.
They would mesmerize.
But we're
you.
talking about the Daytona stuff.
Yeah.
Marco's Ant Catfishes.
Ain't catfish.
Oh, yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
place
I
to
mean,
get seafood.
What was the name of the place that in Port Orange? They always had that, and Mom and Daddy would get on to you because you'd be eating that Melba toast with the cheese spread.
Oh, Captain's Table.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't eat too much.
Yeah, because it was right there at the bridge.
And
Yeah.
you'd be sitting there and
Oh, yeah.
when
Don't
you got-
fill up on crackers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you went out there and watched the sea turtle that was living right there. next to
That
the
was.
place.
I thought that was at the old racetrack off the north turn.
No, well, it was, but it was in Ponce Inlet.
Okay.
It was to the right.
Yeah, I remember the sea turtles. I remember
Yeah.
that deal. Yeah.
And
And I can remember going in, and I didn't appreciate the fact of the stories Daddy was telling back then.
We didn't get it.
Oh,
But
I know.
he'd be driving to the restaurant. He'd be saying, "Well, they used to race down this right here, and we used to go over here, and there was the
He was telling us, we just wasn't listening.
right." But like, there's the armory where you had to go get the cars inspected, and you had to go
And
over
the
here.
theater. Remember the
And you-
drive-in theater?
What you had to
Love it.
you had to drive all the way up here, and it didn't soak in at the time. But now it's like, wow, I wished I'd have knew what he was talking
We
about.
was talking about restaurants. They were talking
We were
about
hungry.
restaurants.
We were hungry.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. How about the Stravo's Pizza,
Oh yeah.
Daytona Beach?
And
Yeah.
you could order it and they'd bring it to your room
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah, but it was, I don't know, we said we was going to talk about Daytona restaurants. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
ones I remember.
Yeah, but there was
yeah.
another little pizza joint there because it had a little player piano, and we can't even remember the name of
It was at Pappy's,
Pepe's or
Pappy's
or
or
something.
Was it there at the mall?
and it had the old ragtime
Yeah, at the mall.
piano.
At the mall,
when
you
went in there.
but you put a quarter.
Daddy
in.
actually liked that pizza.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's saying something because Daddy for a long time didn't eat pizza.
Yeah,
Daddy, so-
Yeah, the only time we'd get pizza if he's out of town.
Right. That's
We
exactly
go
right.
to Greensboro at Tony's, and
Yeah.
they don't even exist no more.
But Daytona, that was a bunch of good restaurants, and I'm sure they still got good ones to this day. But they really were good when we were growing up.
Red Snapper?
Yeah, I forgot about that one. And then what about what's the Italian place? The other place,
Steve's?
Steve's
No.
Little-
Something else.
Venice. Steve's Venice.
Italian.
There
yep.
was one of them, but there was another one towards Port Orange.
Yep.
Gosh, I don't know if somebody's going to help me with this one, but
But there was one there that we stayed at the Treasure Island Hotel for a few years,
Oh, what a great time.
and they had
that
this
was.
big buffet in the hotel, and we would go in there, and they had this deal set up where they would weigh the kids before and after, and that's how they charged them. So me and Mark always wanted to, because we were like 9, 10 years old, so we'd go in there and our big deal was to see how much they would charge. We tried to see how much we could put on.
Yeah. We wasn't eating nothing.
No, it wasn't nothing. But to us,
Piece of chicken. Yeah, we always eating like, yeah.
And then they had that chocolate mousse at the end because you could go up there and get all that
you know,
chocolate mousse you
the
wanted.
motels had good restaurants.
Yeah, that Treasure Island was one of the coolest motels ever.
Oh yeah.
Because it ain't there no more. I think I seen where one of them hurricanes had hit years ago, and some guy was doing a YouTube going in abandoned buildings, and it was kind of sad because it was a nice
Daytona
place.
had a lot of restaurants up and down the main drag there. So.
Now you want to go a little bit south and go down to Miami there.
Sure.
Yeah.
What was one you was mentioning before?
I'm talking about Homestead.
Yeah.
Well, when we first started going to race trucks at Homestead, it was 97.
Yeah. And then one of them hurricanes had just come through there.
Andrew.
Yeah.
96. was the
96,
first one,
okay. But anyways, it was new, and that whole part of Florida was being rebuilt from the hurricane.
Oh, it was wiped out.
And there wasn't nothing there but the racetrack, 2 motels, and a restaurant.
Right.
The Mutineer.
Yes, the Mutineer.
The Mutineer.
Yep.
And then, man, the place kept growing and growing, but that was,
I don't even know if the Mutineer's there no more.
I do not know.
But
Now I'm going to tell you something about Timmy. We're riding in
It's all been
no,
good.
in Homestead. We'd got there. We're riding from the airport and going back to the hotel. Oh, no, we had to go get grandfather Petty some tomatoes at this.
Robert is here.
Right.
That's the name of the fruit stand down there.
But anyway,
They
the guy,
make us get tomatoes.
the guy's sitting on the side of the road with a cooker and cooking. What was he cooking? Barbecue
Ribs.
Yeah. And Timmy,
Me, Timmy, and
Well,
Travis
we got a
ate the ribs.
milkshake. We had to watch
yeah,
it.
oh yeah. So
Yeah.
we sat there and ate them ribs, and Timmy said, "Hey, these are good." So Mark and Travis jumped in and had them a
And
few.
another fella.
But the guy just had him a cooker
Yeah,
on the
that
side of
was
the road.
it. Yeah.
It wasn't a restaurant.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Timmy could find some good spots. So that was one of them.
And it was out in the middle of nowhere.
Now, if you go a little bit further south, down into the Keys, we would go down there into that Well Harbor Inn.
Well, Harbor Inn, and it was like a buffet, wasn't it? Or
that-
all you could eat.
It was all you could
it
eat
was buffet.
seafood. Man.
Yeah, it was definitely all. It was a cool
Buffet
place.
Benny,
Yeah.
that's our thing.
But that was like
But
a,
I always like the high water mark in that.
showed you
Yeah,
when
in that
hurricanes
restaurant.
had come
that
in.
was from a hurricane years ago.
All the hurricanes they ever
Yeah,
had. Yeah.
So they put a little. High,
But that
high-
place, that was, you'd go in there and you could get anything from shrimp or fish or
crab legs.
spaghetti to crab legs. What's them crawfish? You get crawfish
Yeah.
here too.
Shrimp.
I had it all. Oh, you can eat that up. Yep. Well,
This is going to take a whole nother episode. There's a bunch of restaurants.
When you can't forget, we could go back to Daytona.
Oh,
going back north.
Daytona's always the
Because
center.
we've spent most of the episode talking about Daytona.
Our Floridian.
But that's where we'd always get our crystal burgers.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know, we didn't have crystal burgers around here.
Yeah, still
and,
don't.
and something about the Daytona crystal burger seemed like it was better than the rest of them.
Well,
It is.
That goes.
That one or Brunswick, Georgia.
Yeah.
But it's like all of us on the East Coast. Anytime they go to the West Coast, you always get that In-N-Out burger, and everybody's always going crazy for that. Well, that was the way it was. Still do. But that's the way it was for Daytona, because we didn't have Crystal Burger or Steak and Shake around here. So when we went to Daytona, that's the places we'd hit.
It was a big deal.
And you remember, Daddy always had to have the Popeyes chicken because there was a Popeyes chicken in Daytona. They wasn't.
Yep.
We didn't have them around here.
Right. That kind of was,
Yeah.
was regional for down there.
Mm-hmm.
But we was getting ready to leave, I guess, Daytona test or something. And
Oh yeah.
so
What's
they
going-
said, hey, we don't have nothing for y'all to eat at the plane, so y'all stop and get it. So we went into Crystal Burger and said, we want 100 crystals, and we're not kidding. I just remember there's 3 or 4 people, they all got up and it was just,
Well, the little girl behind the counter said, "Y'all joking with me?"
we said, we're
Timmy
not
says,
kidding either.
"No, I want 100 crystal burgers."
Yeah, but don't.
And we ate.
There wasn't none left over, but there was 8 or 9 of them.
Let's rewind that to Pop Red and them. Didn't Jack Smith eat like 50 of them?
The word on the street is that he ate 50 in one setting,
Yeah.
which I think about 12 is all I could do. That's stretching it. Oh, we'll talk about George Colwell.
Okay.
So we was,
Big George.
we was in Daytona one time and stopped at Crystal Burger, and we all got us 12. Mark got 12, I got 12, a couple of us got 12, George got his 12. So we ate our crystals on the way back.
On the way back from the racetrack.
Yeah, and we pulled in a motel, and George looked at us and said, well, that wasn't bad for a snack. And he walks across the road to Subway and gets a foot-long sub. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember it.
And then him and Donald went in the pool to take their bath.
But good gosh, that old Big George could eat.
He was a giant.
Do you want to?
Big old guy.
Do you want to like migrate up to Dover, to the Sambos?
Go ahead.
Absolutely, we got to mention Sambo's.
You know what? What do you think about Dover?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's you get some good crab, and the crab and beer at the Sambos was probably the best we've ate. We're talking about Daytona and all that, but that was some good crab up there, wasn't it?
Well, we got to plug Sambo's.
Yeah, there was a sponsor on the Petty Brothers racing truck.
We went to Dover. Really didn't intend to go to Dover that year, for the second car or truck, and so between Sambo's and Kerry's Diesel Repair,
Yep.
and we had a couple small deals, and it was very small, but it was very helpful. And but they
again, it was humbling because it was better than nothing.
People helping people,
trying to help us.
Yep.
And,
Good people. Yep.
So we actually got to eat a couple nights at Sambo's, and that was part of our sponsorship package.
What was the place in Texas? Up in Smoke.
Up in Smoke, yeah.
That was another place that helped us.
They were a real big Petty fans.
Well, they sponsored our trip.
Right. That was the same year.
So yeah, that was a good place to eat too, because we had there.
Well, we're gonna stop Buffet Benny we just want to say thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for everybody that supported us back then and today. And
hey, I want to give a shout out to our West Coast fan club, Cal Northrup and all his guys.
And his call in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Stuffed himself into his car and drove a few miles down the road from the racetrack on Friday, where he once again managed to justify a big fee by passing it off as a necessary part of our telecast.